I suppose my initial exposure to Islamic thought was, very academic, and very much through uh, presentations of Islamic theology, metaphysics, really. I mean, I was more interested, of course, in the beginning, particularly with more interest, let's say, in Ibn Arabi, who attracted me from the outset when I was an undergraduate. I heard about him, read a little bit about him, and it seemed to me that this made sense. Uh, and of course, I happened to be at this time taking a junior year abroad in the good old days when Beirut was a lovely town to visit. And AUB, the American University, is on the Mediterranean. And I went really because I read about its beach. That was about it. History major, okay, let's take some courses on Islam. And Saint Hossein Nasr happened to be there. And of course, he's very much a philosopher, philosophically oriented. And it was his brilliant exposition of what Islam is all about that really attracted me, along with, and then as far as texts go, it was Ibn Arabi at the beginning. And then, of course, I did my, back in Ohio, I did my senior research paper on Rumi because Rumi was available. The whole Mastery had been translated by Nicholson and other works. So, and although, and then of course I wrote once, let's see, it's a long story, of course, when I look back. Ended up in Iran to do a PhD in Persian literature and to study under Sayyid Hossein Nasr. And of course, attended all of his lectures on Sufism and philosophy, Islamic philosophy, and became engaged with a number of really outstanding philosophers over the years. And it just seemed to me, the way I was built, that it is all based on understanding, on knowledge, on when it comes down, on the perception of what it means to have faith in God, his angels, his books, his prophets, the last day, the measuring out. That is the substance of the Islamic intellectual history, explicating the three principles of faith: Tawheed, prophecy, and the return to God. So this was, and this, of course, once back in the United States, when my wife and I were teaching at Stony Brook, we started lecturing on Islam. We were very dissatisfied with the various textbooks that are available. We had to write our own. The vision of Islam was the result of that, and put together, which is very much a vision based on knowledge, I can put it. But then, of course, I spent simultaneously years studying Ibn Arabi, and one thing led to another. But the basic issue that I kept on coming back to is the eternity of the divine love, the unconditionality of love, of God's love, in one respect, and the conditionality of God's love in another respect. And this, to me, is at the heart of the Islamic message, at least the conclusion I had reached by the time I was writing Divine Love. And I haven't changed my mind. And Farghani, the text I'm working on now, is very much making this extremely explicit. So there are two basic Quranic verses. You're all familiar with them, I think. The way Yuhibbuhum wa yuhibbunahu is the first one, 554. This is the text that is always quoted in the brief version like that. He loves them, they love him. This is not a command to do something, to love God. It's a statement of fact. God loves human beings eternally because God's attributes do not change. Human beings love God by nature. There's nothing else they can love. So what is the problem? Of course, the problem is ignorance. The problem is forgetfulness. The problem is they don't know what they love. The problem, they think, I love this, I love that, I love her, I love him. Well, those are simply disclosures of the divine reality. You don't really love that. And look, that's going to disappear very quickly. One of Rumi's central messages. What you love is just evanescent because what you really love is eternal. So that's one side. That's unconditional love. Those with a Christian background are, familiar with that sort of thinking. Christianity Christians generally make a big point about God's unconditional love, as if no other religion knows anything about that. The second verse is, of course, Qul, addressed to the Prophet, in tuhibbun Allah, if you love God, fattabi'uni yuhbibkum Allah. This is the heart of Islamic practice. The first verse sets down the heart of Islamic theory. It's Tawheed. There's no God but God. There's no lover but God. There's no beloved but God. There's no love but God. And therefore, human beings by nature, by their fitra, by their original nature, love God. The second verse sets down the principle of prophecy. If you love God, follow me, that is Muhammad, God will love you. Now, look at this, if you love God. Well, the fact is you do love God. If you could understand that, and here, of course, ilm and ma'rifah are very important. I don't want to degrade knowledge and say knowledge is in any way unimportant. It's the foundation, because unless you know what you love, you can't love it. You're loving an illusion. If you love God, follow me, let's follow Muhammad, and God will love you. So the whole point of Islamic practice, theory and practice, is following in the footsteps of the Prophet. Based upon what? Love. Well, this is basically the reasoning. I've written about this a lot, of course, in Divine Love and a number of articles which have appeared, which are available at my website. And of course, I'm redoing this whole thing in the introduction now to Farghani, the introduction to Ibn Farid. I'm also reviewing this. And Farghani himself provides the most thorough explanation of the way that love permeates reality that I've run across in any text that I've read. So that's the brief of it. The rest is my life. I mean, I can't, as you were saying, I can't just begin over. Yes.